Hey guys, Just Letter Magic here, and as promised, I'm going to run down Wizards' explanation for why they banned 4 cards in today's ban announcement. Now, if that's news to you, probably should watch the video directly before this on my channel. I know I uploaded it at a really weird time. I was going to say, well, where were you when I made the first one? You're probably at work where I should have been, but I blew it off and made a video, and now it has like 7,000 views, so clearly I made the correct decision. So watch the video first if you want to know what was banned and why I think it was, and this is Wizards' explanation, which I have not read yet, about why they did it. And I did scroll down just to see, it is like a small book, and there's like charts and crap, so like they are really giving some reasoning here. So, I mean, they're giving out, like, well, it had a 54% win rate online in match 1 and match 2 after sideboarding. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, let me give you the more, what would you call that? Like, the zoomed out, the wide level version? Mark Rosewater designed the main mechanic Energy, and he does not like, according to his own admission, to make mechanics that are interactable or stoppable. And here we are. You can't remove any energy from opponents, and this is where we're at. So anyway, let's dig right into it. R&D has been carefully monitoring the evolution of the standard environment since the rotation with the release of Ixalan. While the play patterns are generally healthy and games are strategically deep, the environment has been dominated by for several months by 2 archetypes, Temur Energy and Ramunap Red. And yeah, that really isn't wrong. I mean, the last numbers I looked at, because I don't give a crap about competitive Magic or really stats at all, was the Pro Tour. So that was a while ago. But it was Temur Energy and Ramunap Red heavy. The thing is, though, out of the, I want to say like 3,000 people or 2,000, I think it was a percent anyway. We'll just say 2,000. About 1,200 of them showed up with energy decks. So yeah, it's going to be kind of represented in the top 16 a bit if that many people showed up with it, just due to sheer, like, luck and matchups and stuff. But I looked at Approach, and honestly, that looks too shaky to be competitive, but I guess nobody expected it. And then, mono-white vampires, black-white vampires, and all these other decks, I'm like, yeah, these are good. I mean, maybe people will catch on, and they won't just read it for, oh, look, 80% of the people are playing Energy, it must be good. You know, I thought those decks could hold their own against Energy, and clearly they could. Like, somebody finished, like 3rd with one of them? But apparently things are a little bit different since the Pro Tour, and a lot of those decks haven't really caught on, at least not on MTGO, where, keep in mind, every 24 hours they have, like, a report with exact numbers on what beats what. So, keep this in mind, NetDeckers, one tournament's results are not really going to tell you what to play or what the best deck in the world is. You need a hell of a lot more examples than that. There will be no end to NetDecker stupidity. It's just never going to get better. Anyway, they say these 2 archetypes together represented more than 40% of the competitive metagame. Yeah, 80 is where I'd put it. 80 is more than 40, so they're not wrong, but it's not 40. I mean, they're using newer numbers than me, but at the Pro Tour, it was like 85, 90%. Anyway, it boasts significantly positive records against the rest of the field in terms of non-mirror match win percentages. So that's where you start to run into a problem where, you know, you could phrase it as nothing can beat it. Then they go on to say, this is despite the best efforts of the metagame to adapt and counter these decks. That's true. People were trying all kinds of new stuff. A couple Ixalan things, vampires, people were coming up with stuff, bringing it to Pro Tours and doing well, and GPs and all that. It's just, you can't knock it off. You can't just say Temur Energy got worse. It simply didn't. So next up, they say Temur Energy and other variants. So we're going to hit that one first. It says having recognized best decks in an environment is common and not by itself a situation warranting bannings, which is true. In many cases, what is considered the best deck changes over time as the metagame evolves and new sets are released. Absolutely 100% true. However, in this case, the combination of 3 factors had necessitated intervention. 1, the length of time for which these decks have been dominant, as long as 5 months or more, depending upon how one categorizes different energy variants. Because everybody knows Pummeler came out, like, really early. I don't think that should really be a factor at all. I mean, not by itself, because they stated just the length of time. I mean, it ain't doing good things to their sales, but other than that, isn't the point of having cards in Standard for 2 years to be able to play them for 2 years? And remember, you can't just build a more powerful set, then a more powerful set, then a more powerful set that always gets more powerful than the one before, or we'll have an 8-8 Trampler for 3. Which, wait, what do we have now? We have, a 12-12 Trampler for 2. So I guess we're there already. But in general, oh my god, then there's Verdant Gearhulk. Oh my god, like seriously. But anyway, with a couple exceptions, we're not really there. So I don't think the length of time a deck is dominant for should really be considered at all. But then again, it's can anything new beat it? And that's like the same thing. So, whatever, however you want to phrase it. So number 2 was the standard rotation did not meaningfully weaken these decks. Okay, I'd love to hear what that would mean. Or result in new decks that are competitive with them. Now that makes sense. How would you weaken it other than like this card removes energy, which they already completely missed the boat on that one. I guess they mean like delve and then, graveyard clear, where it's like you kind of did weaken it, kind of. But without actually removing cards, you're not really going to weaken it. But yes, new decks that are competitive with them, those are a bit lacking. I mean, the ones I looked at, they look pretty good, but the numbers from online seem to say something different. So I'll take the word for it. Number 3, despite the metagame having many months to adapt to these decks, counterplay options have proven insufficient. That's like literally the same thing. So one shouldn't even, it's not phrased correctly and shouldn't be a factor. Number 2 and number 3 are the same thing. So what they mean to say is there's only one factor and it's nobody can beat these damn decks. Yeah, counterplay. I mean, what do you do about energy? It's the same as Merfolk are going to be. They're kind of are now. You can't interact with the damn Hydra. You can't remove it. You can't block because they have Harness Lightning. You can't outdraw them or drop tribal stuff on the field because they have, what's that other one they banned? The one that draws a card. Oh, Rogue Refiner. So yeah, there's no single way to shut down energy. They have an answer for everything, which is incredibly annoying. I'm calling it right now, though, Merfolk are going to be worse. They're going to be way worse. They're going to be like 50% of people leaving Magic level bad the way I see it. Oh, especially since the only damn deck that beats Merfolk is Ramunap Red, and now that's dead. So yeah, good luck, everybody. Have fun playing Commander in Modern, because it sure as hell ain't gonna be Standard. So they go on to say, Temur Energy and its Temur Black variants together make up a significantly larger portion of the Standard metagame than any other deck. Historically, the most played deck at the beginning of a Standard season occupies 10% of the metagame. That's actually surprising. I would think it's higher. With other decks vying for this top spot. I guess, yeah, if people have ideas, and then it's like what beats what, it kind of simmers down. Maybe there's 10 ideas at 10% apiece. And then they say, as the metagame settles towards an end of a season, in other words, right before another product release, it's not uncommon for the emergent most played deck to occupy 20% of the metagame. That's true. I mean, like Black Devotion was at least 20%. I mean, 20% might even be low. It's not necessarily a bad thing because, even if it was 25, that means 75% of people are playing something else. You start to worry at like 40% plus. That's where I would be like, okay, almost every other person is playing this damn deck. I'm getting sick of it. And then those people get sick of it because mirror matches. And then they say, of course, this gets shaken up again with the release of a new set. So they never really want a deck to go too high above 20%. So they say, however, when an archetype begins a season immediately after the release of a new set with a metagame share of 20% or higher, which absolutely 3-color energy did, that's when it starts raising red flags for us. Temur Energy began Ixalan season in that range, and it's only increased. So it went from a lot of people jumping on it immediately to, oh my gosh, it's getting worse. So they're saying currently sits around 30% of the Magic Online competitive league metagame. I would have said 60, but it's not like I use Magic Online, so whatever. They say this is the highest metagame percentage we've seen over the past 2 years. Now see, that I don't believe at all. I mean, unless they count like Energy Marvel as the same deck, because it kind of was. I can't remember any specific examples because it would have been a while ago, like like in the BFZ times kind of, but onward, just before BFZ cycle. But there were decks that were 50%. I mean, I would think, at least from what I've heard and from tournament results. I know MTGO is a little bit different than a tournament, though. The cost to build the deck is a bigger factor than I just want to win because it's online. It's not like you bought a hotel and a flight and all this crap and are invested and there's a ton of prize money. So what people bother to spend money on and bring to a Magic Online competition is another story. So yeah, that's probably not quite real for what you see at FNM even. Although it's more real because FNM is more close to MTGO than it is to a PT. Either way, they say, it's important to note that there are many ways to categorize and distinguish energy-based decks from one another. While one player may group together all decks that play Attune with Aether, for example. Oh, come on, I run it in a non-energy deck. Another may recognize the differences between Temur Energy, Temur Black, Sultai Energy, Sultai Red, and Pummeler variants, which, yeah, Pummeler's an all-in combo, so that makes sense. We were careful to consider this in our analyses, more than one, of the environment, and looked at these decks both as separate entities and in aggregate. So what they settled on for the biggest, most important thing was Temur plus or minus Black. let me just take this opportunity to remind everybody that Temur Black is quite possibly the stupidest thing I've ever heard. When you are running blue, black, red, green, it's called Glint Eye. If you're gonna dust off some stupid antique crap that has nothing to do with the plane that you're actually on in the lore in any set and standard, and then name it that for no reason, then be consistent and do it. You know how long ago Shards of Alara came out? Can we just start naming them stupid stuff like Mexican flag? Red, white, and blue is Merca. And what else we got? Candy cane, that's red, white. Christmas is red, green. Light blue is white, blue. I am literally the only person who says that. Anyway, Temur plus or minus black, or as I like to call it, either Temur or Glint Eye. Not that any of the cards have anything to do with anything with those names. Anyway, they broke it down like, okay, that category against Ramunap Red, 53.4% win rate for the match, 48.4% in game 1, and 53.7% in game 2. And I mean, if you look at it versus White Blue Cycling, 49.2% win rate, so almost dead even, but 29% win rate in the first game, and then game 2 plus 59.3. And here we have the problem, everybody. 3-color can pull anything out of its sideboard and fix anything because it's 3-color, or 4-color in some cases. I mean, almost every single one of these. There's even White-Blue Approach, which, I mean, come on, that deck's a fragile house of cards. But 52.8% overall win rate, 23.7% in the first game. I mean, it gets crushed. Oh, but game 2 plus, 63.7%. So every single one of these stats looks exactly the same. I mean, some of them go from 50 to like 53, but they all go up in game 2 plus, and that's because 3-color, especially energy, can just do anything. Absolutely anything. You could go get Dispossess. You could go get Lost Legacy. You could go get a Negate. I mean, you could go get a board wipe. Just anything. Whatever you need, you go get it. And then you win the second and third game. That's why I think they need to take drastic measures to make sure that nobody can play 3-color ever again without getting just burned like 15% of the time on color. 3-color is too good and too flexible, and literally everybody would play it if it wasn't for the fact that you get color screwed occasionally. Well, with Aether Hub and like Spire of Industry and cards like that, you're just not going to. So I read the chart. Let's see what they have to say about it. They say this particular chart groups Temur Energy together with Temur Black variants, though general findings hold in similar analyses that break them apart. Whatever that means. The first column shows the overall win percentage. Second column is game 1. Third is the overall, yeah, obviously. So like the sideboard matches. It says, while some decks boast a significant advantage over the pre-sideboarded game, I mean, yeah, like a 75% win rate. Oh, they're going to mention it, aren't they? Oh my God, they're actually going to say it. In almost all cases, Temur Energy is able to reconfigure post-sideboard to pull ahead. Holy crap, they actually realize what the problem is. Oh my God, I'm proud of them, like no joke. I mean, they should stop designing crap like this in the first place. I'm not that proud. This is like your son or daughter coming home with like a C+, and you're like, you passed. Anyway, this is especially notable in the cases of Approach and White-Blue Cycling. Oh yeah, my God, it went from a 75% loss rate to like nothing, like 30%. They say, yeah, it has extremely favorable game 1 win percentages, but ultimately are unfavored in the overall match. Okay, those decks are fragile garbage. Let me just throw that out there. I actually don't quite remember what White-Blue Cycling does. I just haven't played against it that much. I haven't really seen it on X-Mage that much, but I assume it's very, very disruptible. Maybe it's like graveyard clearing or something. I don't know. It sounds like those two decks are just asking for it. I mean, Approach and what is that other one? That stupid God Pharaoh's Gift. You can just knock them over with anything. Once you know what, like how to stop it, it's over for those decks. So they say, with the exception of Red-Green Pummeler, another energy variant itself, which is true, that doesn't even resemble the other decks, none of the other decks that represent a significant portion of the metagame are able to reach a truly favorable matchup against Temur Energy. That's true. I mean, the overall matchups, the lowest one on there is 46.1%. So Energy at least has a chance against anything. And none of them, the other thing is none of them are above 56%. So what's wrong with that, right? I mean, you go up against Energy and you have roughly a 50-50 chance. Well, it's just because of that, so many people are playing it online and bringing it to tournaments that it's overrepresented and it looks like it's utterly dominant. But I always said this, Energy is not that strong of a deck. It's a good deck. It's a solid deck. It's predictable. It's very low skill and low decision tree, but it's not that great. So they say it is because of the inability of the metagame to adjust to Temur Energy's dominance that we identified the need for B and R intervention? That's not R&D. What would that even be? I'm going to say Bacon and Ranch, because Bacon and Ranch makes everything better. Oh, it's probably banned and restricted, which from now on will be called the Bacon and Ranch list. If you see somebody playing one of these cards on the banned and restricted list, you have to douse it in ranch dressing and then put bacon bits on it. That's how you let somebody know it's a DQ'd card. All right, so they say when examining candidates for banning, we analyze what makes energy decks so powerful, consistent, and difficult to counter. That sentence honestly says it all. Powerful, I mean, the hexproof, it does this, it does that, it does fast damage. Consistent, I mean, it can get all three of its colors by turn 3 like 90% of the time. And then difficult to counter, hexproof and really high attack. Just very little room for... or margin of error, I guess would be the phrase. So that is a very good way for them to describe it. So 1, reduce overall win percentage of Temur Energy and other related energy variants while still preserving the competitive capability of the core of the deck. That is always what they've said, and that's always what they've attempted to do. In the past, they said, okay, we're going to get rid of just this little piece of it, and hopefully you guys can still play the rest of it. We don't want to just nuke the whole deck, where, you know, if it was Approach of the Second Sun and they just got rid of Approach, the deck's gone. I mean, it's dead. And that is exactly what they should do, because that deck deserves to die. So, yeah, looking at what they banned, it's really subtle. I mean, they just powered down the deck like 5 or 10%, and that's it. You can go on playing it all you want. You're just going to get color screwed a little bit more. You're going to run out of energy a little bit easier, and that's it. I mean, it's not like the whole deck's demolished and you got to disassemble it. So remind that to anybody who is like complaining heavily about this, because nobody likes bannings, but... this is so subtle what they did. I mean, it's 4 cards. It's not that subtle, but it kind of is. To the construction of the deck, it's pretty damn subtle. So let's see. Open space in the metagame for the decks to excel above energy decks in certain areas. Well, yeah, like speed, damage, and resilience with hexproof. It does it all, so yeah. And to force energy decks to build toward different strengths and weaknesses. Yeah, make it a little bit more rock, paper, scissors then. I've got a little bit of hexproof, a little bit of aggro, a little bit of dodge, a little bit of removal. I mean, it's just the Swiss Army deck. It does everything. They should make people say, okay, I'm going to focus on more creature removal and maybe drop it to like 2 color or like an all-in combo or nothing but just giant creatures. Then the deck has a strength, it has a weakness instead of just being the universal do-it-all deck. 3, allow for easier counterplay against energy decks. Well, you missed that opportunity unless you're going to let us remove counters from people, which would screw with Infect, and I don't think anybody would give a crap because Infect is a disease, pun very much intended. You really can't counterplay it. You'd have to like say that the Hydra no longer has hexproof or something. I don't know. Or you'd have to bring back like enemy only flicker so that you could like for 1 with like a couple blue and what would it be, white cards, you could just flicker it and then they come back without their counters like Long Tusk. So yeah, that's not realistic. But anyway, number 4, preserve the most fun gameplay and deck building elements. See, they want you to build decks, not copy them off the internet. Anti-net decking confirmed. Then they say, while reducing frustrating ones. Okay, why the hell didn't you ban Approach then? 30 counter spells and some bullshit win condition is not what I would call fun. It's frustrating. It is the definition of frustrating. In fact, get rid of frickin' Lantern Control too. We've had more than enough years of that deck. That deck can go burn in hell at this point. Kitchen Finks, piss off with that garbage. But I guess we're focusing on standard with this one. They actually haven't made a single comment about like modern or anything. This is actually kind of weird now that I think about it. Anyway, the cards we gave the strongest consideration to were Attune with the Aether, Rogue Refiner, Aether Hub, told you, Long Tusk Hub, I don't know why, Wordler Virtuoso. Oh, you better say Hydra somewhere in this damn list. Nope, that's the end of it. Are you kidding me? I mean, yeah, I can't even say it. I'm so shocked. The stupid Virtuoso, nobody cared about that. It was very annoying because it could just sit there and generate like, you know, what was it, Thopters or whatever over and over and over. And that was so obnoxious. But the Hydra, how was that not even on the radar? It's the one that cannot be removed. The number 1 worst card in the decks was the damn Hydra. What is wrong with these people? Anyway, ultimately we decided on Attune with the Aether and Rogue Refiner, 2 cards that produce incidental free energy along with an effect that is almost strong enough to play on its own. That's 2, a 3/2 that generates no energy and draws a card for 3 mana is amazing. Like that was like an astonishingly good card. So you add energy and it's overkill. And the same with the tune. All you're doing is color fixing for 1. You know, like that new amulet thing does from Rivals. It's literally that plus 2 energy. They never should have designed that card giving out that much energy, but they didn't think that people would be playing 3 color that easily. They also didn't ban anything earlier because they thought that losing the lands from BFZ would make people stop playing 3 color energy. It did not. So they also wanted to make sure that they, solve the problem correctly. So they said these 2 cards are the most common non-land cards among all the energy variants. That was true ever since the Pro Tour. Although I think the Hydra was like number 3. There are 2 of the most ubiquitous cards in all of Standard. That is true. So without Attune with the Aether... Wait a minute. Oh my god, I've been saying it wrong for like a year now. It's Attune with Aether, not Attune with the Aether. Also, it's pronounced Ether if you really want to... I don't even want to get into that. I made a whole video about that. So Attune with Aether, apparently. Without that, energy decks will need to make more difficult decisions on how many colors to play and how to structure their mana bases. Exactly. It's too flippin' easy to play 3 color. And 4 color, evidently. He even says this may cause 4 color energy decks to break down into multiple 2 or 3 color decks. Hopefully 2. I'm adding my own commentary to this, right? So he says, if there was 2 or 3 colors, then they would have strengths and weaknesses, which is how every deck is supposed to be. You're not supposed to have a perfect deck that just plays around everything, and then sideboards around everything on top of it, which is what it does. Additionally, cards that spend energy will have less immediate impact without the head start of 2 additional energy. That's true. I mean, that Long Tusk, you could just bomb that thing on like turn 2. Let's see, and that's often present from turn 1, allowing for a greater window of counterplay and more branching paths in which the games can evolve. Here's the funny thing, they're in a roundabout way admitting that a lot of people are stacking their decks and cheating, because Attune with the Aether has, look it up, 45% chance of showing up in your opening hand without a mulligan. It should only be there in every other game. I don't know if you guys watched the Pro Tour, I certainly didn't, but from what I heard... pretty much everybody had to tune with the Aether on turn 1. Like, way the hell more than 45%. Now, maybe they mulliganed until they saw it, but I don't know. Even with mulliganing, it doesn't go up that high. I don't think it exceeds like 75%. Anyway, Rogue Refiner is what we term a generous rate card, one that simply provides a lot of value for a little investment. So apparently that's called a rate card. I've never heard of that. I've heard the term, but I didn't know that that's what that was. The additional card advantage and energy make it difficult for other mid-range and control decks to go, quote, over the top of energy decks in a long game. That's true. You can't swing into them because now they have a bonus creature and more cards than you. You can't really outdraw them because they're already hitting you with giant creatures. And they already removed your creatures with, Harness Lightning. And then on top of that, you can't just force them to top deck because now you have something that's a 3/2 that you have to remove on the field. And if you remove it, great. They still have the same amount of cards. Actually, no. You had to burn a card to remove it, so they have 1 more card than you. So then they go on to say, like Attune with Aether, it also enhances the power level and immediate impact of energy spending cards. That's true. Rogue Refiner also provides a strong pull towards blue and thus toward playing 3 or more colors. They think with it gone, people won't play blue. That's true. There's not that much blue in those decks. This makes what would be different energy decks play and feel more like one another. That's absolutely true. It's just generate energy, do stuff, and annoy your opponent. So we decided not to take action against any of the other energy spending cards. That's true. I mean, they're not inherently broken. It's just the amount of energy people can generate that's the problem. So good on them for figuring that out. They say in the case of Long Tusk Cub, removing Attune with the Aether already prevents many of the frustrating early starts that can cause the Cub to snowball out of control. Abso-frickin-lutely. Nobody wants to see an 8/8 Long Tusk Cub coming at him by like turn 5. Next, Whirler Virtuoso is one of the strongest cards against Ramunap Red. That's true, because it just throws crap out there in the way. So get rid of both of them, which is what they did anyway. Which is the second most popular deck and the most winning deck on Magic Online. Oh, wow. It's actually number 1. Well, it is really cheap, though, and that's a factor. We decided to preserve Whirler Virtuoso so as not to inadvertently improve Ramunap Red's already strong position in the metagame. Well, they can't generate as many Thopters now, so good luck with that being a maintained thing. I mean, I don't know if you guys remember or not, but it cost 3 frickin' mana to create a Thopter with that thing. They say, finally, we took no action against Aether Hub, finding the loss of Attune with Aether to already be a sufficient hit to the consistency and win percentage of energy decks. And I believe they mean for color reasons. Further, preserving Aether Hub may open up deck building avenues for non-green decks that use energy. That is absolutely true. I mean, black energy is like a really good deck. They say like blue-red Grixis energy decks. How is it blue-red? Oh, blue-red and Grixis. I thought they were pulling the same crap before. I'm like, blue-red Grixis, what is that, 5-color? Guys, I'm playing red-green Jeskai Sultai. That's what my deck is. Anyway, yeah, those pop up once in a while at tournaments. I mean, they're good decks. So they say, therefore, in order to reduce the overall win percentage of energy decks and allow for more counterplay, Attune with Aether and Rogue Refiner Abandoned Standard, please note that we expect energy decks to remain a competitively viable component. Absolutely agree with that. Of the metagame, even after this change. I don't think it'll drop below 10%. It's still a damn good set of decks. Now, I will say, though, that some decks from Rivals, especially Vampires, certain dinosaur builds, and Merfolk, all look like they can stomp energy in the nuts. So were any of these bans necessary? Probably not, honestly, except for Ramunap Red. But considering how long it took to go through their entire report of why they did this, let's make that a different video. So watch for the reasoning behind Ramunap Red's ban, and we'll go from there in the next video. So see you guys next video.